My sister, this is opportunity. Big men of Freetown have money like sand at Lumley Beach. Why suffer? One smile, one night, and you too can shine. In the hills above Freetown, there once lived 3 sisters, Aminata, Bintu, and Kumba. They were as beautiful as the morning sun rising over the Atlantic, and as close as the fingers on one hand. Their mother, old Mosese, sold groundnuts at the market, working from dawn until the stars appeared. She raised her daughters on prayers, palm oil rice, and the wisdom of their ancestors. My daughters, she would say, a bird that flies with borrowed feathers will one day be naked before the world. But in the city below, a different song was playing. One day, Aminata, the eldest, saw her schoolmate Fatmata stepping from a gleaming car, with her bone straight hair and her phone glittering like captured starlight. Fatmata's nails were painted the color of fresh mangoes, and her dress cost more than Mosese earned in 3 months. Sister, Fatmata whispered, why do you suffer? The big men of Freetown have money like sand on Lumley Beach. One smile, one night, and you too can shine. Aminata remembered her mother's words, but they seemed like old cloth compared to Fatmata's new silk. That evening, she told her sisters about a world where poverty was just a choice, where beauty could be traded for comfort. Our mother's back is bent like a question mark, said Bintu, the middle sister. Let us help her rest. Only Kumba, the youngest, felt a coldness in her belly. But she loved her sisters more than her fears, so she said nothing. Within 3 months, the sisters had transformed. They moved from their mother's small house to a flat in Lumley, where the ocean sang outside their window. They wore Brazilian hair that fell like waterfalls down their backs. Their phones never stopped ringing. Big man Joseph, Chief Hassan, the Lebanese merchant, the NGO director from abroad. Mosese wept when she saw them, but they pressed money into her hands. See, Mama. We are taking care of you now. No more market for you. The old woman took the money but would not spend it. She buried it in a clay pot beneath the mango tree, whispering prayers over it each night. The sisters danced at the beach clubs where the music drowned out their thoughts. They drank champagne that cost more than medicine, ate food that could feed a village. Men called them baby, sweetie, my investment, but never by their true names. Aminata convinced herself she was in control. We are businesswomen, she told her sisters. This is just temporary, until we save enough. But money has a spirit of its own, and it was hungry. It began small, as curses often do. Bintu developed a cough that would not leave. The hospital doctors whispered among themselves, gave her pills in brown bottles, but would not meet her eyes. The big man who had given her the sickness had already moved on to a younger girl, and his phone number no longer worked. Aminata found herself pregnant by a man with 3 wives who offered her money to take care of it. She went to a house where a woman with no name did things that left her bleeding and empty, not just in her womb but in a place deeper still. Kumba, the youngest, fell in love. She fell in love with a musician who said he saw her soul, not just her body. But when he discovered how she earned her money, he looked at her as if she were spoiled meat and walked away. She cried for 3 days, and her tears tasted of salt and shame. The sisters stopped talking to each other about what hurt. Instead, they bought more things, more clothes, more shoes, more bottles to help them forget. The money they saved somehow never grew. There were always emergencies, always needs, always the next payment for rent, hair, makeup, data, something to help them sleep, something to help them wake. One night, when the music had stopped and the men had gone home to their wives, the sisters found themselves back at Mosese's house. They did not know why they had come. Their feet simply carried them there. The old woman made them tea with ginger and lemongrass. She did not speak at first, just looked at her daughters with eyes that had seen too much but still held love. Mama, Aminata finally whispered, we thought we were helping. I know, my daughter. The cobra also thinks it is helping when it swallows the mouse. We wanted to escape poverty, said Bintu. But you cannot escape poverty by becoming poor in spirit, Mosese replied. You have traded your tomorrow for today's bread. This is the oldest trap in the world. Kumba wept. We cannot go back. Everyone knows what we are now. We are spoiled. We are marked. The old woman shook her head. A river can change its course. A farm can lie fallow and heal. But you must choose. The money spirit you are serving, it will eat you until there is nothing left but bones and regret. The crossroads. The sisters sat in silence, each wrestling with her own ghost. Amanota thought of the young girls she had seen recently, girls who looked at her the way she had once looked at Fatmota. She saw the chain extending forward, link by link, daughters pulling daughters into the same golden trap. Bintu touched her belly where a child could no longer grow, where the medications for her sickness had left her barren. She thought of the children she would never hold, the family she would never have because of what those clandestine pills and illnesses had taken. Kumba remembered when she used to sing, before her voice became a tool for seduction. She remembered wanting to be a teacher, to help children learn to read, to pass on knowledge instead of pain. What can we do? They asked their mother. We have no skills, no certificates, no other way. Mosese reached beneath the mango tree and pulled out the clay pot filled with all the money they had given her. I saved every leon, every dollar. Not because I am greedy, but because I knew you would need it when you decided to find yourselves again. She poured the money onto the mat between them. This is your second chance, bought with your own blood and tears. Use it to learn a trade, to start a small business, to remember who you were before the city taught you to forget. The long road home. The story does not end with a miracle. Folktales may have magic, but life has only choices and consequences. Amenota used her money to train as a hairdresser. The work was hard, the money was small, and some customers whispered about her past. But her hands were skilled, and slowly, her reputation for excellence replaced her reputation for shame. Bintu could not reverse her sickness, but she could manage it. She began volunteering at a clinic, talking to young girls about protection, about choices, about the things the big men would never tell them. In helping others avoid her mistakes, she found a kind of redemption. Kumba returned to school. At 25, she sat in classrooms with teenagers who giggled at the old woman among them. But she studied harder than anyone, and 3 years later, she stood before her first classroom of children, teaching them to read, teaching them that their worth was not in their beauty or their bodies, but in their minds and their character. The sisters never became rich. They never again wore Brazilian hair or carried phones that cost a small fortune. But slowly, like a plant reaching towards sun after a long darkness, they grew back into themselves. Old Mosese lived to see her grandchildren, Amanota's adopted daughter, the child of a distant relative who had died, and the students who called Kumba, auntie teacher, and filled her life with purpose if not blood. Before she died, Mosese called the young girls of the neighborhood to her bedside. Listen well, she said, her voice thin as smoke. The big men will always come with their money and their cars. They will make poverty seem like a choice and selling yourself seem like power. But hear me, that which you trade for money, you can never fully buy back. Your dignity, your health, your future, these things have no price because they are priceless. She looked at each girl with fierce eyes. The Ron's girls thought they were running towards something, but they were only running away from themselves. And you can never run far enough or fast enough to escape who you are.